Every week I've been coming down to the floor to recognize someone in my state who has made a difference, someone who's devoted time and energy to making my state a better place to live for others. We call these individuals our Alaskan of the Week. And as I've said repeatedly, I believe my state is the most beautiful state in the country. We have visitors. We want to welcome more and more visitors. Come on up. Guarantee it'll be the trip of a lifetime. And when you go to Alaska, one town that nobody should miss is Homer, Alaska. It is surrounded by the glistening waters of Kachemak Bay, jagged mountains, glaciers, and snow-capped volcanoes. Some call it the halibut fishing capital of the world. Others call it the cosmic hamlet by the sea. Some, like me, call it a slice of heaven. I was there a few weeks ago holding a community meeting, and I thanked them then, and I want to thank them all today for the very warm welcome I received. I also like to thank Homer for the very warm welcome they gave to the Navy destroyer, the USS Hopper, which spent a few days in Homer before participating in a joint naval exercise with the Army in the Gulf of Alaska. The 300-member crew of the USS Hopper was greeted by hundreds of cheering, flag-waving Homer residents. The commander of the Hopper, J.D. Gainey, wrote that in his 24 years of naval service, quote, "I've never seen as much patriotism as we enjoyed in Homer. Thank you, Homer, from all of us." Alaskans love Homer. They see it for the landscape, but also for the people, a tight-knit community. They might not always agree with one another, particularly with regard to politics, but they look out for each other. And like any community with a heart, they look out for their animals. Mr. President, this week I want to recognize a special person as our Alaskan of the Week, Sherry Bess, who spent nearly 30 years, 3 decades, taking care of Homer's animals as the manager of the Homer Animal Shelter. In 1989, when Sherry began to volunteer at a pet shelter in Homer, there was one building, no phone, and only 4 cages to hold cats. It was basically a shack, she said. The snow would come in through the dog door, the drains and the water bowls would freeze. Sherry's hands and feet were always cold. It was infested with mice. There was no bathroom. Oftentimes, when the shelter was too busy or when the animals needed extra care, Sherry would take them to her home where she would care for them. So Sherry and a handful of residents cared for over 1,200 animals each year in that little shelter. And along the way, she gathered both happy stories and heartbreaking stories about the animals she found that were abused and the ones that she found homes for. In fact, one of the members of my team in Alaska took a puppy that had been abandoned in a crate in the woods near Homer, took him home, fed him, and Mike Flegel on my staff now has a dog, his dog Suki, 8 years old, and has the full reign of the house he's loved. Thanks to Sherry, stories like that abound throughout Homer. For 26 years, she's worked night and day, 7 days a week, for the pets in that community. And she recently now stepped down from that job. She's taking care of her own pets, lots of them, her family, she calls them, but she'll always be known to so many people in Homer for what she's done for their pets and their animals. Over the years, those animals that came to me, she said, unwanted and sad and depressed, and then you help them, you love them, they go to a home and they're loved, and that's the most rewarding thing I've done. Mr. President, Sherry said over the years she's noticed that the residents of Homer and throughout the country have been kinder to their pets. Part of that is a result of what Sherry and others like her across the country do to educate the public on taking care of animals through vaccinations and neutering. And some of it is more and more that people, because of people like Sherry, are considering pets as their family. So I want to thank Sherry as our Alaskan of the Week for all that she's done and for all that she's done to the pets in our great state. Great job. Mr. President, I yield the floor.